Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and happy Hanukkah. Just the other morning, while I was sipping my iced coffee, I turned on our TV and switched to the local news. This often occurs when I do this, that the newscast is in the middle of the weather report for the upcoming week. Now, of course, for those of us here in Minnesota, we know that we are fortunate currently as we are experiencing a little bit of a warmer December than usual, and it is the first time since I've been serving Temple of Aaron that there has not been snow on the ground during the holiday of Hanukkah, which some might say is a bit of a Minnesota Hanukkah miracle in and of itself. Yet, there was something else that caught my attention from the meteorologist on my television. He shared that earlier this week, on Wednesday, we experienced the earliest that sunset will occur this year. I believe it was around 4:27 or so. And that in not so long, we will have our latest sunrise of the year, with the sun not coming up fully until about 10 minutes prior to 8 a.m. Of course, these times are not so surprising as we approach the winter solstice, when we will have our shortest day of the year in terms of sunlight. However, when he was talking about all this literal darkness, I could not help but think of our holiday of Hanukkah that we just started celebrating last evening with the lighting of the first candle. I always loved that Hanukkah occurred in the dead of winter. I always loved being able to see the menorah from the front window of my childhood home, as to me this was our holiday light decoration. The menorah sitting proudly in the window, showing who we are, but now I've come to realize that there is a little bit of a deeper meaning to these lights, and the fact that we light them specifically during the darkest point of the year. However, let us take a look at our traditional literature and laws around Hanukkah to help us come to that deeper meaning and understanding. Hanukkah is a unique holiday of ours because it is not found in our biblical canon, and it does not have a tractate of Talmud that is dedicated to the discussions and the debates of the rabbis about its observance. Rather, we must look in sections of Talmud dedicated to Shabbat, to Sukkot, and the Megillot. We are going to look at a section from Shabbat that occurs on page 21a. And now this section deals with the time or the duration that the candles should be lit or need to be lit. It also will talk about how we light the candles, and ultimately also who is responsible for lighting the candles to fulfill the mitzvah. The Talmud states, or minhu, mitzvata mishetishka hachama ad shetichle regel min hashuk, which means the mitzvah of candling the Hanukkah lights is from sunset until traffic in the marketplace ceases. Now, the text goes on to the question, does that mean that they must be lit for the entire time, that entire duration, or does it mean that you have that entire amount of time to fulfill the mitzvah? And they even try to clarify what it means when it says, until traffic in the marketplace has ceased. What the rabbis ultimately come to realize is that the time frame is meant as a time in which one can fulfill the mitzvah, and it also explains that when we say traffic in the marketplace has ceased, that refers to when the people who were responsible for selling wood would leave the market, because they were the last ones to leave the shuk. So this text comes and provides us with the idea that it was critical to allow a good amount of time to be able to fulfill this mitzvah, potentially allowing the ability for more people to fulfill it, and letting us know that we are able to light until, let's say, last call at the marketplace, I think also hints at the idea of how many people would have been able to see the lights from the menorah. The text lets us know that we want the most exposure of these lights and provide people with a good amount of time to partake in the mitzvah. The text continues by discussing that while it is only required really for there to be one person to light the menorah per household, that for those of you who are really, really meticulous when it comes to observing the mitzvot, they ensure that each member of the household is able to light their own menorah, which I am sure is the custom of some of you listening to the sermon today. So what can these texts come to teach us and provide for us in our modern times? Well, these texts are clear proof that we want the experience of the menorah, both lighting and witnessing their flames to have maximum exposure. This all makes sense because the major aspect of Hanukkah is that we are meant to publicize the miracle of the oil from the temple by shining a light from our windows, in our courtyards, or even outside our front door. But what is it about so many people either actively or passively connecting with these lights that is important? I want to now turn back to our local meteorologist who I referenced before. As I said, I could not help but think about our holiday, our festival of lights, when he was talking about nightfall and sunrise, because it is so interesting that literally the darkest time of the year is a time where we and other faiths as well bring more lights into the world, whether through lighting candles or decorating with all shapes and sizes of lights on houses, trees, and more. However, the holiday also reminds us that we can bring light to the darkness. We can combat the fear and uncertainty of a dark abyss by bringing forth our own light and letting it shine through. I do not need to tell you all that this has been a dark year for each of us, for our community, for the country, and really for the entire world. When we look out into the world, it is easy for us to see and feel as if the darkness is closing in on us. And while we try our best sometimes, that darkness does impact us, and it seems like we will never see the light shine through again. However, we must look at the holiday of Hanukkah as a time for us to bring light and joy into the world, to try and increase the light and the holiness in the world in the same way that we add a candle each night to our menorah as we fulfill our mitzvah of Hanukkah. My hope is that as each of us look at the candles that we light, or the candles that we witness in a menorah in a window, we think about what we can do. Think about what every one of us can do to brighten the world. Now, perhaps that is bringing that light and impacting the life of a loved one. Maybe you're paying extra care to them, attention to them, maybe because they've been secluded and isolated for so long. Perhaps you bring that light into the world by trying to donate toys or clothes to organizations that are attempting to ensure that all people can enjoy their holidays this winter, especially in such an uncertain year like 2020. Perhaps you bring light into the world by being nice to a stranger or giving some assistance to someone on the street to show that we see them and acknowledge them and do not view them as outside of our sphere of influence and responsibility. We are commanded to light the menorah in order to publicize the miracle of Hanukkah. Now, let us use those candles and the menorah to be a reminder to us and to others when they see it that we have a responsibility to each other and to the world. It is our job to brighten each other's lives, because when we do that and when we care for our fellow humans, especially in our collective dark moments, we are in turn bringing Hashem into this world. We are making the world a brighter place. We are making the world brighter not with physical light necessarily, but with the light of the Shekhinah, the light of caring for our fellows and our society around us, that we make the world a better place. My hope as we head into Shabbat and as we complete the celebration of Hanukkah, my hope is that may our lights shine brightly this Hanukkah and this coming year, and may others from all nations and beliefs join us to brighten the world. With that, I say Chag Urim Sameach and Shabbat Shalom.